Welcome back to another Stampede Blue Colts cast, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Matt Danley. Thank you guys for coming back to the show. Always appreciate it. As always, please go out and support the podcast by dropping us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Go to the site, check everything out, do all the things that you guys continue to do, share the show. You guys have been fantastic and really appreciate it. Thank you guys also for just continuing to follow along through training camp. It's kind of a dull thing because we continue to go back to same old conversations here and there between the articles, between podcasts, and so on and so forth. But it really is something that is a continuing thing right now with the Colts. Everything's in motion. Everything is fluid. Everything continues to be overchanging, whether it be one of the positions or anything. So it's still interesting to talk about. And plus, we've still got three preseason games to discuss and go through and watch and then kind of break through and analyze afterwards. But always appreciate you guys being a part of the show and a part of the process. But tonight we've got a great guest on tonight, Charon Vonberg. Charon, what's up, my man?
How you doing, man? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I'm glad for you to be here. You guys can check out his work at NFLanalysis.net. And anything else you got going on, man? What's your Twitter handle? Why didn't I look at
Twitter handle is at Charon Vonberg. That's CharonVonberg.
Right on. There. You guys get over and check him out. If he used to write or does write, it's kind of like we talked about this a little bit off air. It's been somewhat of a collaborative thing where indie coverage or indie sports coverage has kind of merged into this NFL analysis net. And then they have a basketball side of that too. Is that what they're doing?
NBA analysis too.
Okay.
All 30 teams from NBA, all 32 from NFL. So
okay, that's kind of what I thought. So we got that going. Everything is in good shape, and make sure you guys are checking out his work. Now, you were at camp today, man. Were you there yesterday as well?
I was not there yesterday. No.
So what stood out to you today? Because I've not looked through camp notes or anything from today. I wanted to kind of be fresh on this. So what was it today, if anything, that stood out to you?
Today, Andrew had his first 2 interception day, but one of them was just a simple overthrow over the middle, and then the other one, miscommunication on a little slant route. So really, one interception, if you want to look at it that way. A lot of running drills. You saw Jordan Wilkins with the ones and the short yardage situations with Turbin out, with Mack out. So he's getting some more opportunity. One thing I did notice is Eric Swope was not in pads. So we saw in previous seasons he hasn't been able to stay on the field. So Ross Travis was out there a lot today. He took advantage. I saw him get the ball in his hands a lot too. So it'll be interesting to see how that tight end battle plays out with Swope a little banged up. And
yeah, that's been one of my favorite positional battles. I mean, because after last year, you seen that they brought in Ross Travis, that they continued to kind of go at him. I think it was in the Buffalo game, and even a little bit after that. He's been one of my favorite guys to kind of watch throughout the preseason and training camp. I kind of feel like, and I don't want to say that he's been stagnant, but it kind of feels like they're not really. He and Swope are kind of on and off. I mean, you see that they have good days in practice, but then they don't get a lot of targets during like the first preseason game and just so on. And each practice seems very different for them. Another guy, as we talk about receivers and pass catchers and stuff, Ryan Grant was a guy that they keep talking up. I've yet to see anything that really.
Yeah, I haven't seen much out of it either.
No, I mean, I fail to find a spot where he continues to make impressions on anybody, and Colts are talking him up. Everybody's like, well, the coaches are talking him up. I'm like, hey, you can believe what the coaches say, and they are the coaches, so they know what they know. But on my end, visualizing practice, I've seen nothing to tell me that Ryan Grant's going to be some sort of an impact on this offense. He and Andrew just still do not have that chemistry. Yeah. Any better today at all?
I couldn't. Nope, nothing with Ryan Grant. Nothing's really stood out with any of the receivers besides Ty, obviously. Eric Ebron has been good too, and Jack Doyle, obviously. But Ebron got hurt early on in practice, so Ross Travis got even more snaps. But at that wide receiver spot behind Ty, there's not been much encouragement besides Deion Kane, who we saw go down with the torn ACL. So right. Chester Rogers or Grant or Reese Fountain, someone's got to step up here soon.
Bad news for, everybody who was hoping that Deion Kane was going to be, an integral part of this offense, which I think that he had a real shot at being that number 3, given at least what I presume would be Grant kind of being dismissed at some point in terms of getting a lot of targets throughout the season. And that kind of goes back to even the preseason week 1 game. He didn't have a single target in that entire game from anybody. And that is something that the Colts are going to miss dearly with Deion Kane not being in. One of the biggest problems, I guess, with this preseason situation is that these are the injuries that come about. These are the ones. It's never the guy. I mean, it might be, but nobody ever pays attention to it and doesn't really care. But it never seems like it's that 53rd guy or that 80th guy. It's always somebody that could have played a role in the season or in the at least been a solid depth piece. And that's obviously it sucks seeing that, because that always seems to happen. Kane was going to be good, but like you said, somebody else has to step up now, because any way you want to slice that first 3, you've got T.Y. Chester and Grant. And then after that, KJ Brent's really been the guy who kind of stood out the most through camp and preseason. Anybody outside of that? I mean, who's your next guy? Because I'm interested.
My next guy personally is Casey Williams. I think he's made today. He had a few nice grabs. I think in the preseason he had a couple catches. I think in practice he's continued to show up. So I think he's that next guy. And then there's also Charon Vonberg, who was with the squad last year before he tore his ACL. Right. So I wonder if it'll be one of those two. Also, there's free agents available. Jeremy Maclin, Chris Ballard had him in Kansas City. There's a guy like Dez. I don't know if the Colts want to go down that route. Right. But Brandon LaFell just got released too. So there's a few veteran free agent options if the Colts just don't trust any of these young guys.
Mm-hmm. And I've got mine as after KJ Brent is also Casey Williams for me. It just seems like he's kind of the legit possession guy of that group. He's not going to be a guy. I mean, he's got speed, he's got hands, and he's not bad on the perimeter. But I just really see him as a guy who's going to – he's one of the few guys, I guess, aside from Charon Vonberg, who would be big enough, strong enough, and durable enough to take that stuff across the middle with consistency. After Williams, I've got Zach Pascal as far as just overall wide receiver talent at that position. But after that, it gets dicey. Or not dicey necessarily, but they all kind of merge together. Ishmael, Hogan, Wright. And I think Shontavis Jones. Was he the one that got hurt, or was it Wright? It was Wright.
Wright got hurt
in the first preseason game. But now the Colts have Matt Hazel in there, a guy that they're familiar with, played with the Colts last year for a little while, and then Reese Fountain. And I've been a guy who really was I was kind of hyping up Reese Fountain going into training camp. I've not seen much from him. I know I saw that he had a couple catches throughout practice. I think today, maybe it was yesterday. But
yeah, I read that today. I didn't see him though personally, but I read that he had a couple impressive ones.
That's good. I mean, I want him to be better, but people were not happy when I said he's not a top 6 receiver in this roster, and he's just simply not right now.
Yeah, he hasn't showed up in training camp. And you mentioned Pascal. He had that nice catch in the preseason, but today, watching him, I saw one drop in individual drills and then another easy one down the middle in team drills. So that's not going to go over well with the coaches.
Nope. It isn't. And how did speaking of drops, just because we saw that kind of be a real issue for Nyheim Hines in the first preseason game in Seattle, what did he look like today? Did he look any better? Like he's kind of calmed himself down?
Yeah, he looked normal, like he did in the beginning of training camp. Looked good. Was still back there returning kicks, returning punts, everywhere on the offense and the slot, backfield, all that stuff. Didn't really see any drops from him, so that's good. Just wonder if it was the jitters in that first game or what was going on with him.
Yeah, I was too, because we'd not seen anything like that from him. The only guy that I think that I'd really noticed like much as far as some inconsistencies with hands and fumbles was Christine Michael. And I was totally not expecting that from Nyheim Hines at all. So I was not excited to see him be the one doing that. He's going to be such a pivotal dude for the Colts in this offense. I mean, he's going to be a weapon. He's in the return game. He's splitting out. He's being in the slot. He's going to be in the backfield. I'm kind of looking at this backfield situation. Being that Turbin was out, it kind of bothered me that they used him so much in the preseason game against Seattle. Just because, I mean, I get it. You want to get him his snaps and everything else, but not, I mean, injured, whatever his ankle issue is, that's not
Mm-hmm.
that big a deal because he's got plenty of time to become healthy now. So it's not really that big a deal. But I really wanted to see more Jordan Wilkins. I wanted to see more Nyheim Hines. I wanted to see more of these guys that we are going to see in the first part of the season. Those are the guys that really desperately need these snaps for the Colts, I think, right now. And when you look at Josh Ferguson, who has not been healthy at all, basically through training camp. I mean, the first couple practices, that was it. What I mean, is there any? Do you see somebody else coming in other than? I mean, what they did bring in
Brandon Oliver.
Brandon Oliver, and that guy has familiarity with Reich and his offense as well because he
Mm-hmm.
went in. I think it was in 2014 in San Diego. He actually was the guy who got a ton of the carries that
Mm-hmm.
San Diego. I think he got hurt. He was effective. He was a solid running back there. I'm interested to see him. Did he practice today?
He did, but I actually read that he got hurt, and I didn't really see him after that. So I don't. I saw he was getting looked at by trainers, so I don't know. I don't know what it was or if he's okay, or. But I never saw him out there after that. But yeah, Ferguson's banged up, and to be honest, he has not been good when playing, when healthy. So I was disappointed as well to see so much of Turbin because we've got Wilkins, we've got Hines. You got Mack got hurt early on, so it's even more important to get those guys into the flow of the offense and get the playbook down, get everything down, get the NFL speed, get going so they can be ready when they're forced into the lineup in week one because Max hurt, Turbin's suspended and hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really have much besides that. Brandon Oliver and the new system kind of, and Josh Ferguson who's not that good and not healthy. So
Yep. The backfield situation doesn't necessarily worry me long term as far as
mm-hmm.
long term this year, but right now it kind of seems like you need an extra guy just to take some of the carries off them, so we don't end up getting, Wilkins hurt. We don't end up, whittling it down even further,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just not something the Colts can really afford to do going into the season. But they did say that Luck plans to play a little bit more in preseason week 2 game. And I think that's exciting for fans, being that he played into the second quarter. I think that we all are going to enjoy seeing him play. And this is kind of something we hadn't really seen in the past. I don't remember a first and second preseason game where Andrew Luck really took a ton of snaps.
Mm-mm.
I'm excited for this because he needs them. And I think that he needs that real game situation. And I like that he got hit a couple times in Seattle. I thought that was good for him, at least just to get that out of the way. I feel like coming into the second game, we may see a little bit more as far as comfort level from him, even though he looked
Mm-hmm.
good in that first game. But Andrew's continuing to surprise all of us. I mean, I expected him to be back and be good. He just continues, though, to surprise us and keep us, ready and wanting more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that first day of training camp, I was there, and it was not looking very pretty. But day 2, day 3, improved tremendously. And then coming out preseason week 1 to look as good as he did, I did not expect him. Sure, they're quick, short throws, but he looked pretty comfortable. Looked like he got into his rhythm, and let's see if he can get more comfortable in this week 2 game and see if he can maybe take a shot down the field.
Yeah, I would like to see that too. I think that people are really hoping to see that, like, more than it really needs to be worried about, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's shown in practice that he can throw it,
Mm-hmm.
and just flip it, and it's not that big a deal. I don't want people to think just because he doesn't do it in the preseason that he can't do it. That
Mm-hmm.
needs to be something that people just put aside and forget about, because the more you worry about that, the more you're worried about stuff that's not really helping him grow as a quarterback at this point. He needs to be able to do pretty much what he did early on in the game. Kick, then get, a little bit, yardage, get to your second and third read. I really liked seeing him get the ball out of his hands quickly. I think that's good for the offense, especially when you have and had, I guess, guys like Marlon Mack who can pick up easy, quick yardage really fast, and some of the wide receivers get it to your playmakers and let them make a move with the ball. So I'm excited for Andrew Luck's second game. I kind of almost figured that they might just cap it at the first quarter, though. I wasn't sure, and I was kind of surprised that they did say that he'll play a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they want to get him those reps because it looks like he doesn't have trust with anyone besides Ty and Doyle and maybe a little bit with Ebron, but we didn't see him go to Ebron at all. in that preseason week 1 match. So I think this is like getting some chemistry with Ryan Grant, a little more with Chester Rogers, maybe get Ebron in there, and that fourth wide receiver, whoever that's going to be, got to get him some trust in there too. Because Andrew, he's even been honest. He doesn't really trust these guys as
Right.
much as he should right now, and he shouldn't trust them because they haven't done much to earn his trust.
Yeah, and I just wish that they wouldn't have come out and said that, oh, look how Ryan's running his routes. And like, look, he's not running his. I mean, what's so great about his routes? He's not getting open, and that's probably part of the problem. It's not just luck. None of the quarterbacks are targeting him, with any efficiency. He's not creating separation in practice, or obviously not in the preseason game. That's something that needs to change. I mean, we keep hearing that Ryan's this consistent guy. We've heard it from Redskins fans. We've heard it from the coaching staff here in Indianapolis. It's something that we continue to hear over and over again, and it's just not something that we're really seeing. We're not seeing the evidence of that on any of the tape. We're not seeing any of the evidence on that in statistical. Each day, I think he's had one touchdown in the past several days with Andrew Luck in practice. I mean, I really want this guy to step up. I'm not trying to dog him, but I just can't accept everybody talking about how good he's been when I've been I don't know, 8, 9 practices, and I think 7 actually. I just haven't seen it, man. I
haven't seen it either.
Just want him to do more. I want something to come of what he's got. Charon, you live in the Indianapolis area, man. You looking for a house?
Looking for a house?
Yeah.
A little young for that right now.
Well, let me tell you something, man. When you start looking for a house, you got to get a hold of my dude, Mike Ernest. This guy has finally brought his game to the next level as well. He's working with the Remax Advanced Realty and Indy Home Pros team. They're the #1 selling real estate team in Indiana. If you guys are looking to buy or sell your home, you guys need to call Mike Ernest. Mike and his team of real estate professionals are experts in the greater Indianapolis real estate market, and they've helped people just like you achieve their real estate goals. Whether it is the latest marketing and social media tools to sell your home or using the combined experience of his entire team to find the right home for you, you can rest assured knowing that no one knows the ins and outs of buying and selling homes in the Indianapolis area better than Mike Ernest. Get a hold of Mike and his Indy Home Pros team, whether you're in Indy, Carmel, Westfield, any of the surrounding communities around Indianapolis. Mike Ernest and his Indy Home Pros team can help. Put the #1 real estate team in Indiana on your side by calling Mike Ernest at 317-285-9691 or find him online at circlecityforsale.com. Again, Mike Ernest, 317-285-9691 or circlecityforsale.com. Folks, we're going to take a real quick 5-second break, and then we're going to come back and hit the second half of the show. All right, folks, welcome back. Charon, we got to get this thing figured out, man. What is to you the most exciting positional battle still left to be determined?
Man, there's so many. You got the tight ends. We mentioned earlier, Swope didn't practice today. Ross Travis stepped up, and Ebron wasn't practicing either. He got hurt early. So Ross Travis stepped up there. I really like him. Daryl Daniels has showed potential at that tight end spot too. And then you got the wide receiver battle. We've been talking about that. I don't really know what's going to happen there. I haven't seen anyone step up. But on the defensive side of the ball, I think the linebackers, those have been a position we've seen plenty of different starters. Anthony Walker was a favorite for the Mike position before he got hurt, but now they've thrown in Sky Moore in that preseason game. I saw Tyrell Adams out there today, starting with the ones at the Mike spot. And then you got the intrigue with Darius Leonard and how athletic he is, flying around the field. The veteran Najee Good, and then you got Antonio Morrison in the mix. I don't think he'll make the team, but he's been out there a little bit. You got all these young linebackers. I think that's going to be the X factor is their development this season and how they can cover and sort of get to the quarterback.
Yeah, I think this linebacker group is very fun. I'm withholding judgment right now on Morrison only because he's one of the few guys I think out of this group who really consistently brings the real physical approach. It's kind of the same thing with TJ Green. Like TJ Green can cover. He's often taking out his own teammates, but he's a physical guy and they love him for that. And I think that that's how they see Antonio Morrison just kind of at the other position. But I mean, Sky Moore looked good. I kind of broke down the first drive of the Colts defensive drive in Seattle. And there was a lot of things. Now, some of the people were like, you're just pointing out mistakes. Yeah, I was pointing out mistakes. But the thing about it was that they were all easily correctable mistakes.
Simple mistakes.
Yes, they were not big deals. Darius Leonard, several times, I guess, was kind of dropping a little too narrow in his hook zone. He wasn't kind of angling out towards the sideline enough to where he was going to be effective, which was opening up passing lanes for those outside passes, especially within this cover 2 scheme. And even when they went into a cover 3 look a couple times, they don't have it down pat yet. What their drops are supposed to be, how close they're supposed to be to one another, where they're supposed to be at, what's their landmarks on the field for them to drop to. So it's continuing, and it is one of the things we saw with Sky Moore. We saw him break on a ball. We saw him make some good tackles. But we also saw him miss a few tackles with poor fundamentals. These are things that everybody wants to see Sky Moore do because we all think he can do it. He's a hell of a coverage guy. He can play. He's physical. He'll meet the guy. He'll meet the fullback in the hole. He showed us that. There's a lot of good that's going to come from Sky Moore. I love Darius Leonard. He's every bit, in my opinion, the physical guy that we expect him to be, the speed and the explosion. I like Tyrell Adams and Zaire Franklin. I'm kind of excited about both these guys. One of the guys that I really want to watch over the next few weeks is Matthew Adams. Had a tip ball, almost an interception, as I think it was Ronald Martin came up to try to take it. But I want to see Matthew Adams get a little more, like a little heavier package in there with him to kind of have him show us what he can do. Is he that physical guy, or is he a guy who can also be a quality coverage option? You know, I want to see what he really has to offer for this linebacking core. But outside of that, I mean, we've got a real fun, but also kind of a sad front line. This front 7 here is kind of nicked up. I mean, between Terrain and out, Basham not really bringing the wood. Al Woods, I think he got dinged up today. Isn't that right?
Yeah, he got right back up, though, and came back in. But
good. That's good to hear. And then Tyquan Lewis, he's been out for several days as well. So this front line that looked so promising and so fun now is really kind of taking its sweet time to take shape. We did see Hassan Ridgeway play a nice role in the week 1 or the preseason week 1 game. So it was kind of nice, but I'm going to hold off judgment on him until I see him do that a little bit more with the ones in the first group, especially against an offensive line that's not good. You know, in Seattle, I want to see him work against a little more, just an offensive line that's a little more versed, a little more experienced, a little more quality. I want to see that from him. But, I mean, I think we're seeing a lot of good things with this defense. I just don't want everybody to get so down on this group. So young, really kind of nitpicky issues that just need to be cleaned up a little bit. And I think this defense can be real exciting. We haven't seen our safeties on the field in a preseason game yet. Those guys are going to make big strides for this defense. They're going to allow a lot more leniency for this cornerback group because they're going to take a lot of stuff that's over the top and kind of erase it. So I'm excited about this defense as much as we saw them give up some of the easy throws that are kind of built into this defense, those openings, those little voids in the defense that are naturally there that a guy like Russell Wilson is always going to hit. I'm excited to see this defense really gel.
Yeah, they're going to get a lot better. I think we're going to see a major improvement every week. We mentioned they're so young, those linebackers. Most of them are all rookies, second-year, third-year guys. Najee Good's the only veteran out there. In that secondary, we haven't had Hooker. We haven't had Geathers. The corners, I didn't see – I was a little disappointed in Quincy Wilson. And behind that, you got Desir, Kenny Moore, guys like that. So I think they'll get better each year. They've got chemistry from last year, too. I think that's pretty big. But that front 4, it really intrigues me. With Danico Autry, I think he played well in the preseason. John Simon, he's been a big physical presence. Even today in camp, he had a pretty nice day. Then you got Sherd, you know he's going to be nice. And then Basham, Ridgeway, all those guys rotating in. So, and Margus Hunt, too. I think he's an underrated guy on the defensive line. So I think this defense definitely has a lot of potential to be good. Maybe we won't see it at the beginning of the year, but moving on throughout the weeks, I think they're going to get a lot better.
Yeah, I do too. And like you mentioned, this cornerback group, I've seen the dip in Quincy Wilson from the first several practices to kind of the middle practices, and kind of everything in between. Looking at Kenny Moore, a guy who's constantly been boosted up all training camp, he just looked like kind of crap in the first preseason game. That's literally your first chance, man, to kind of rise to the occasion. Everybody's been talking you up. You've been talking yourself up. Now it's time to act on it, and it's time to do something about it. And he really kind of left a sour taste in our mouths, I think. Back, get outside of him when he was already outside the numbers. That's an absolute no-no in this defense. You've got to push those running backs inside towards your help. And if that play was on the other hash, that's a touchdown for Rashad Penny. There's no question about it, because then he has more room to run. TJ Green and Sky Moore don't get to him to push him out of bounds, and that's a touchdown. That's something that's unforgivable from these corners. If there's no edge set, you've got to be the guy to make sure they're not getting outside of you, or it's all over with. Nate Hairston, I've been impressed with him. He's not been that flashy guy. He's not been that guy who's been just super, wow, look at him every single play. But he's been so consistent. He's been a solid tackler. He's been solid in coverage. He's doing it inside and out, whether it be in the nickel or on the boundary. I'm impressed with Nate Hairston to go forward, and I'm looking at the rest of this group here, and I'm trying to find that fifth guy. Who's that fifth guy that they really like, that's really starting to show something in camp? Robert Jackson kind of emerged after the first several days. We didn't know anything about the rest of these guys, but Andre Tolliver has been pretty solid. DJ White is a guy who's got a little bit of versatility as well. I'm not big on Lashard Durr or Chris Milton, so I kind of look at Jackson, White, and Tolliver as those other three guys who can legitimately fight for the roster spot right now. On top of that, is this cornerback group desperately needing a top 3 talent on this roster as far as cornerback to kind of bring this talent level up, or are they just going to deal with what they've got?
Yeah, watching practice today, those 2 picks, one of them was Quincy Wilson on the overthrow, and the other one was DJ White on the miscommunication. So it was nice to see him get in there. So I think that 5th cornerback spot, I think it's either going to be White or I think Chris Milton for special teams purposes. He's been a good special teamer in years past, so I think he could edge it out there. But yeah, watching that preseason game, the whole time I'm just wanting Jim Irsay to send that private jet to sign Breland. He's not a top corner in the league, but he's an instant upgrade over anyone that's currently on the roster, maybe besides Quincy Wilson. But that cornerback room definitely needs someone else in there. Like, I don't need Vontae Davis would be nice to me, honestly. He's back in Buffalo. He's healthy. I don't think he'd be a bad option, but
I continue
Buffalo, but
yeah, I want Breland only because he has what they want in terms of ball skills. He's the guy that's going to go out and make a play. He's going to bite on routes and stuff like that. Looking at the rest of that group, it's just you want to see somebody kind of emerge as the next guy. Come up, make this position better. Do what you're supposed to do, because we know that Quincy's got talent. We know that he's got ball skills. We know that Desir has some talent and ball skills as well. And Kenny Moore has been up and down drastically, almost like Nyheim Hines. We know what he can do. We know that he's smart enough to get it all, and he's versatile enough to do several things. But then when the lights come on, everything goes downhill. Let's hope that doesn't continue. Let's hope that was another jitter game for him or something like that. But I really think Nate Hairston has a chance to be a starter in this defense, wherever you want to put him. If they legitimately get to, all right, here's our top 2 guys, here's our third guy, I want to see, who do they legitimately think their top 3 corners are? Last week, they had Wilson, Moore, and who else? Who started?
Was it Desir?
No, I don't think Desir started for some reason. Why don't
I would personally say the top 3 are.
I think
the top 3 are Wilson, Hairston, and Desir.
Yeah,
but I think we saw a lot of Hairston in the nickel, that slot last year. Can he play the outside?
He can, but I don't think he's as versed in it. And I think that's why they've liked Kenny Moore and put him out on the boundary so much, because they know that they've got a guy in Hairston who can hit that slot. but they also know that Kenny can play that as well. Actually, their starting lineup last week was Wilson and Moore on the outside and Hairston in the slot. So, I mean, that surprised me because Desir did come in. Desir has been a pretty constant and consistent player in camp. So I don't necessarily say that or would think that that's their top three. I just think that that's who they wanted to start with because I think they're fairly interchangeable at that point. Those guys, those four guys are fairly interchangeable, at least when you're adding the pieces that come out from the slot. But this defensive line group, I agree with you. Marcus Hunt, very underrated player, a guy last year who was in the new system or was in the Colts system last year. Now with the new system for the Colts, it's his old system for him, something that he's very used to when he played in Cincinnati, and he did not succeed. But he's playing pretty well for the Colts in that system now. I think that they've gotten through to him about exactly what they want. We just want you to flash when they slant. We want you to slant hard, break the line of scrimmage down. That brings Darius Leonard right back into the fold because anytime they slant with their defensive ends with power, they're bringing Darius Leonard down to crash that line of scrimmage and stop the running back. Those are pivotal plays, and guys like Marcus Hunt can do that, whereas he's not necessarily a pure pass rush guy by any stretch. He's a guy who's just there to bring the power off the edge and kind of smash those tackles and guards down inside. The offensive line, man, this is another group where we've seen now Costanzo is out for a while. When he was back on the field after practices last week, he was just very gingerly walking around, so that he's legitimately dinged up, I think, and probably will be for the preseason. But LaRaven Clark and Braden Smith started at tackle today.
Yep.
Oh, man. Tell me about it.
I don't like the LaRaven Clark at all. At left tackle, you got to protect Andrew's blind side as much as you can. LaRaven has not showed anything in his couple years in the league. But Braden Smith, I think he can play that right tackle. He had a couple hiccups, but I think he's got the mindset and sort of the build for that right tackle spot. He played most of his college games at guard, but he did play 2 games at right tackle, I think. So we'll see if any of that can carry over what he learned in college. But I think Braden Smith could be a day one starter at right tackle come week 1.
What was it last week? I wanted them to use him at right tackle, test him out, because they didn't have him starting at guard. Use him at right tackle and kind of see if he's able to do it. And in the practices, I didn't see it. It didn't look good. It was not pretty. Keep plugging him in there, so they must think that he's got the mind for it. Like you said, he must have the natural ability for it, and they're just realizing that they need to continue to tweak his game over and over. I'm with you, though. The one thing that I understand with them having LaRaven Clark on the left side is that he's one of the most athletic offensive linemen that they've got aside from Nelson and Smith. That's fine. I understand that. But you've also got to have a guy who is fundamental and can continually stop the pass rush. He's not a guy, in my opinion, he's not a guy who's he doesn't have it natural where you see some of these guys like even Ryan Kelly in his rookie year. You saw him helping. You saw him come off of a guy and get to the next guy. I don't think LaRaven Clark's got that. If there's nobody rushing immediately, I just think he's going to continue to drop, excuse me, and just wait for somebody to come up to him as opposed to rushing or coming into the interior and kind of helping pick somebody up. I just don't see that often. I don't think that it's natural for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but there's really no other options.
Right. Well, we need Denzel Good healthy. I mean, we do not necessarily to become the starter, but just to battle, just to be there for the competition. Austin Howard's not apparently impressing the coach.
He didn't look good at all today.
No, see, that's so bad. So, man, we need some encouragement for the Marcus Webb was so slow in that game. I mean, it was almost like all just the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man kind of just having somebody else lift his legs up to get him back. It's not looking pretty. No, it isn't. But they're lucky this year because they've got that depth, man. What do you think they do at left tackle?
It's so hard because there's really no clear option behind Costanzo. So if he goes down at all during the regular season, you're kind of in big trouble. I liked Muhor. Like, if he would have got healthy, I think he was a great option on the offensive line because he's so versatile. but clearly the health wasn't there. Decided to make a personal decision and retire. So I don't know. Maybe try to throw Quentin Nelson at left tackle. That might be the best option other than Denzel Good, maybe.
It might be the best option as far as spreading out the talent. I agree with you, but man, Colts fans about had a freaking conniption when we put up an article about that. That drew a little bit of shade, but I mean it is what it is, and I agree with you. If you're looking at pure talent and you understand the importance of each position, let's say Costanzo. Now they did say that they expect Costanzo to actually be back in time to take some snaps. I'm not holding my breath on that for the preseason, but they seem to think he's going to be back for the regular season. That's great. If he's not, then you literally have Quentin Nelson as your best option at left tackle. They do not want to do that. They do not want to put Quentin Nelson at left tackle because he is so imperative to the Colts' interior offensive line taking that next step. And they definitely do. My guess is that they just kind of make do with who's there, who they want to put in, who's the guy who's played the best. We're going to put him in, and then we're just going to run our offense kind of versed around that right side. Try not to worry about the left tackle spot. Try not to get too, none of those deep developing passes where you've really got to worry about him escaping to his left. Maybe they try to put a little bit more movement on the pocket with somebody at left tackle, with Andrew Luck moving out to his left. That's against his body, but it's also a better way to get more offensive linemen intact. Now, another thing that they can do is they can put some of these linemen or some of these tight ends like Jack Doyle or Ross Travis, they can put them on the edges and they can kind of give them some help. I think that's something that we're going to see a lot if Costanzo's not back right away. But, a lot of news with the Colts, a lot of kind of shuffling right now, a lot of positional battles going on. This is kind of what preseason training camp is all about. Who's the guy, Charon, that stood out to you? Not that's not getting talked about, but the guy that stood out to you that you think probably under the radar deserves a shot at this roster?
I'm really high on Kasen Williams. I don't know what it is. It's like he's got that NFL wide receiver body. I think he could really make an impact maybe as a fifth wide receiver, be out there as a possession guy. I like him a lot. I do like Chester Rogers. I don't feel like anyone's talking about him. Hasn't had a flashy camp like he did last year, but if you watch him, his foot skills are so good. He's pretty fast. His route running's real good. And he's got a little bit of chemistry with Andrew Luck. So I think he's an underrated guy that could make a big impact here in the regular season.
I agree. Do you think that they keep a sixth wide receiver by chance?
It's going to be – I think it'll either be 6 wide receivers or 4 tight ends. I think it'll be one of those two.
I kind of feel like they have to keep 4 tight ends.
That blocking ability, like you talked about, put Jack Doyle at that left side and let him block, or have the running back stay back and block. But it'll be interesting to see how they handle if Costanzo does happen to go down.
Right, and I'm kind of interested in that battle as well. As you mentioned, Darrell Daniels has looked pretty good lately. Ross Travis has been kind of one of the guys that I constantly am hoping for to kind of break out, but we haven't really. I guess we haven't seen it in a consistent nature, necessarily. But we know what he's got. I think if I'm going to go kind of under the radar here with any of these guys, it's hard for me to do, but I'm going to go with Robert Jackson at corner. And I just think he's got the length. He was one of those guys that you see him come in, and that was what stood out to you the most, right? Just under 6'2". I think he's a little bit over 200 pounds, or right under, maybe. I think he's over 200 pounds. He's just got a little bit of that, slow learner type thing where into practice, it wasn't really clicking with him. He was doing the individual drills, looking solid. You could see his athleticism. That was obvious. But now you're kind of starting to see everything kind of click with him. And I'm excited to watch him the rest of the preseason. I think he's got probably the most impactful opportunity because DJ White's got a past with Chris Ballard. They know what he brings. Robert Jackson, even if DJ White doesn't make this roster, isn't necessarily in the running, Robert Jackson has to prove that he is better than DJ White and can do everything that DJ White can do because they know what they've got with him. They'll take a little bit less talent for a guy who's got familiarity, is physical, and can play in the slot. Those are things that Robert Jackson has to be able to do at least a little bit in order, in my opinion, to make the roster. And I'm excited to see kind of what he can bring to it. My overrated guy, and he's not really overrated because people are just not giving him any, extra leash. They're just not. Terrell Basham. I mean, what in the hell is this guy doing? When is he going to really put it in motion, and when is it going to click for him?
I was expecting a lot more with the switch to 4-3. That fits him a lot better. You got Robert Mathis in there for the second year teaching him up. I was definitely expecting him to make a much larger impact than he has, especially with Taekwon Lewis and Kimiko Turi down. So I thought he was going to step up, but we haven't really heard much of him from camp. We haven't seen much from him. So we'll see how it goes coming into the next few weeks.
I want to see, because we saw some of the bursts that their explosion from him, but they're all on plays where the plays are opposite side of him. They're going away from him. I want to see him legitimately tear up a tackle and get a sack or a quarterback. We need to see that. He needs to have it because he needs it for his ego. He needs to have something to build on that's genuine, that he can actually prove look, this dude holds onto the ball for another half a second and he's creamed. He's done. And that ball's on the ground. That's what he needs. Danico Autry, he's shown plenty. Al Woods has shown that he can still be a viable run defender, and he's gained a little bit of that burst. Grover Stewart's shown it. We know what we got in kind of Lewis and Toure on the minimal side. We know what they have potential-wise. We haven't really seen anything from them because of them not playing in the preseason, but John Simon has proved and said constantly, football players. John Simon is a football player. Forget about position. That dude comes in and goes 100% all the time. We just really need a lot of those guys that were in the second year, maybe third year of their NFL careers. We really need those guys to step up because that's such a pivotal part of this roster building. If you have draft after draft, each of those draft classes has to contribute a little bit more every year. Terrell Basham's not really contributing. We have not seen we have not seen Hooker on the field yet as far as actually being in the preseason. We have to see these guys really start to bring everything that they've talked about bringing, or the process doesn't necessarily fall on its face. It just takes a step back, and the Colts really can't afford a step back with the way that the roster is designed right now.
Yeah, they need these guys to develop as much as they should be and as quick as they can. We haven't seen much from Basham. Even Geathers, he had a breakout season, was it 2016, but then last year that injury held him out. So I think he's in his contract year. I think he could be on the outs if he doesn't have a healthy, good season here in Indianapolis. You got Farley back there, TJ Green, and Hooker. So I think if Geathers doesn't step up and show what he has to offer, I think he could be on the outs. But yeah, we need these young guys to step up. It's so important for the defense. You need pass rush to succeed in the NFL. The corners can't cover for 10 seconds, 7 seconds while the quarterback's just running around. Mm-hmm. So you gotta have someone step up.
Yeah, absolutely. They have to step up. The veterans have to prove that that's why they're there, and the rookies have to say, have to be one of those rookies, at least one, and maybe two, has to explode, and we need to see another couple of them just be positive players. I mean, you have to get at least solid contributions out of 4 of your draft guys every year in order for it to be considered a positive and to be successful. So we've got a lot going on. The Colts end up having their joint practices here pretty soon with the Ravens. And then what do they play, Saturday? Or do they play Monday?
Monday.
So we got a Monday preseason game following a Thursday preseason game. So that's good for the Colts. Hopefully they're getting some guys a little bit healthy. It's almost like that mid-season mini bye. So we're hoping that the Colts can actually put this to use and get some of these guys healthy. I want to see some of the things that we've talked about in the second game against Baltimore. I'm hoping that this joint practice kind of goes over smoothly. And I want to see these guys excel against other teams, especially the secondary and so on and so forth. So we've got a lot to look forward to, man. It's going to be, I think it's going to be an exciting season, even if the Colts aren't threatening to win double-digit games.
Yeah, definitely. I think we mentioned the confidence of Basham, how he just needs to get in there for himself, for his ego. I think with some of these guys, if they make one play to boost their confidence, like I can do this, I think that could really benefit them. Like we saw Hines in the preseason game, didn't get off to a good start at all, and it just went downhill from there. So I think maybe with him it was confidence. Maybe with Basham it's confidence. If he gets one nice pass rush, one nice hit, that could just spark things to a different level. So it'll be exciting to see if in these joint practices and in these next couple of games, if these guys can get some confidence, make some plays, and carry that momentum over into the regular season.
Absolutely. Charon, we're about to wrap this bad boy up. Tell everybody where they can catch your stuff and where they can catch you on Twitter.
My Twitter handle is at Charon Vonberg, CharonVonberg. You can find my work at NFLanalysis.net.
Make sure that you guys are going out and following his work. He has been at training camp, so he knows what he's seen. We both agree Ryan Grant's not cutting it right now, so it's not just me.
Not living up to the hype.
No, it isn't just me. We're going to continue to do this and bring this out, but also make sure that you guys check out his work at NFLanalysis.net. They got good things going on over there. Make sure that you guys are always coming to Stampede Blue for all your Indianapolis Colts news and analysis. Charon, thank you so much for joining us tonight, man. I had a great time.
You too. Thank you for having me on, man.
Absolutely. Anytime, open invitation, my man, to come back. So make sure that you guys are all following his work. Make sure you guys are going, again, rate and review the show. Big help. You guys have no idea how much it helps. We've got a ton of ratings and reviews on there right now. The more, the better. The more the show grows and continues, and that's what we need. So thank you guys all for showing up tonight. You're watching. Thank you guys. Make sure you guys are subscribing to the YouTube channel. If you're listening, go out there and rate and review. Subscribe. All that good stuff every time. I shouldn't have to say this every time, but I do because I want you to do it. So make sure you guys are getting up with Charon on Twitter. And as always, you guys can follow me on Stampede Blue and on Twitter at mdanleysb. So thank you guys for showing up tonight. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Colts Cast.